Welcome in to Check the Mic. Steve Palazzolo, Sam Monson. It's our first show together here, Sam.
Yeah.
For Check the Mic.
No longer in basements or an attic or wherever the hell we've been stashed for these shows. We're in person, we're live. Now, we're not with a booster seat, so it's going to be some visual challenges involved here, but you know.
Sit up tall, Sam. But we're coming at you from Circa. It's Radio Row. It's their big weekend.
Yeah.
Their Circa $1,000,006 contest. That's what we're going to be telling you all about here today. But we're excited to be here. There's all sorts of media people around, and it's our big opening. It's our first show together here for Check the Mic, not the division previews. All those division previews are coming out, but it's good to be here, man.
Yeah, back in Las Vegas. You know, we've been there for the Super Bowl before. This is an incredible place, Circa. I mean, they've got the stadium swim thing at the back. They've got the giant sports book, presumably Dr. Eric Eager's favorite hangout, you know, before he was employed by the NFL.
Yeah, don't get him in trouble.
I'm just saying, you know, previously, it's an awesome place. And yeah, great venue for us to do our first in-person live show together.
It's our preseason extravaganza, so we're going to go through all the major player awards. We'll go through all the division winners. We'll even pick our Super Bowl winners here today. We're going to throw out some fun prop bets and parlays in there as well. Before we get into it, I want to tell you about everything at Circa here. They hook you up. Do you get the pool view?
Yeah, pool view.
I got the pool view as well.
Right.
It's very impressive here at Circa.
Now, I've got 2 king beds in mine. I don't know if I'm going to, split the difference between them or just, pick one and go with it. But fancy room. I know from previous experience of staying at this hotel, the showers are life-changing. So, have fun with that.
So what everybody needs to do is get out here, Circa $1,000,006. You got $1,000 to enter, 5 entries per person max. Don't go over 5 here, Sam.
No.
While you're here. But there's 126 ways to win, $1 million first prize, $3.6 million in cash prizes for places 2 through 100. So that's what's going on. That's
2
what
through
we're talking
100.
about down here.
That's pretty deep getting your money back.
That's why there's 126 different ways to win. $6 million guaranteed in total prizes. It is the Circa $1,000,006. So get out here. If you're out here, be a part of the contest leading up to the regular season. So we're going to go through all the major NFL awards. You ready to do it?
Let's go.
All right, let's start with Comeback Player of the Year.
Your favorite award.
It is my least favorite award. I want to boycott this award.
We each have an award like an official NFL award that we hate.
Detest.
Yours is Comeback Player of the Year now, and I hate the MVP with a fiery passion.
You cannot legally say that you don't like these awards because you have a vote. You're one of the 50.
I can say it. I
don't
have to like it.
You're one of the official 50 voters. You don't want to lose that vote.
That's true. I do, it's fun. I take them seriously, but I do believe that the MVP award is flawed, let's say. Though they are, I think, providing a lot more official guidelines now. I believe there's an actual sort of definition. Because previously a lot of the problem was there's no definition to any of this thing, right? So it's like, what do you think comeback is worth?
People would just redefine.
Right.
Well, let's go back and define that thing called value. Sam.
Yeah, or value or comeback. But now they've actually started putting out some actual guidelines for this is what a comeback should entail.
Yeah, well, because last year, Damar Hamlin did not win. And he came back from death, Sam.
He did.
And he did not win the Comeback Player of the Year award.
No.
And he should have.
Correct.
Like Joe Flacco gets off the couch, Damar Hamlin comes back from death. It should have been Hamlin. But let's talk about this anyway. Comeback Player of the Year for you for this year.
Well, I went with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers at 40 years old, coming off an Achilles injury. If we see anything like the best version of Aaron Rodgers, that has to be Comeback Player of the Year. And I've seen yours, for example, and I know that having seen the guidelines of what a comeback actually should be, I don't know that yours qualifies.
What do you mean? If I was on the show last year at this time and I said, I think Joe Flacco is going to win Comeback Player of the Year, you would laugh at me.
But now it's been clarified, having seen the Joe Flacco mistake.
Oh,
Let's call it what it is.
Am I breaking the rules with my selection?
I don't think you're breaking the rules. You're just you're going against what I believe the clarification is.
Let's talk Rodgers for a minute, just before I give my pick.
Yes.
I think he's the most obvious choice.
Yeah.
And
because he's the correct choice.
There was always ups and downs when it comes to training camp, but they're coming off of a great practice against the Giants, for whatever it's worth. And the big question with Rodgers is, will there be any physical decline, right?
Yeah.
And you're not seeing that yet. You still see the 55-yard pass to Garrett Wilson that he threw at practice the other day, so you're not expecting
and the
physical decline, but he's got to stay healthy.
And the effortlessness of that pass. He's still able to just flick the ball, fire at 55 yards. And I've said this before, I don't think we're going to see that kind of physical decline from Rodgers, at least not this year, if and when being 40, hurts him. It'll be in the injury stakes, right? It'll be now he's got an Achilles to worry with, like the leg compensating, like a quad injury, or the other knee, or like something like that. We're going to get more of a brittle version of Aaron Rodgers. But I think physically, he's still going to look like Aaron Rodgers.
I think it could be a little bit of the movement around, inside the pocket. When he's got to be a little quick twitch, vacate the pocket, get outside. I still think he can win without that, but that's what I'm going to be keeping an eye on as far as age when it comes to Aaron Rodgers. My comeback player of the year, though?
Yes.
Yeah, maybe I cheated. Going J.J. Watt.
And that's worse. Not only did you cheat, but you're cheating and pandering at the same time.
I'm not pandering. Just because he attacked our former employer. Just because he
sounded off against J.J. Watt, and now you're trying to butter him up, get him back on side by picking him for comeback player of the year.
Because look, it's all set up right here, right? The Texans look like a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah.
They left the door open for J.J. Watt's return.
Yeah.
I don't know if you follow J.J. on social media, but the man works out.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew that.
I did.
If you didn't know, J.J. likes to tell you that he likes to work out a lot.
Yeah.
Right? And he's in good shape.
I don't think that's uncommon, though, for former NFL players.
Just telling you. No, because a lot of former NFL players, they lose 80 pounds or whatever. JJ looks ready to go. He's ready to go. He's ready to step in, be a pass rush specialist halfway through the season, pick up 10 to 12 sacks in 10 games. That's what we're looking at here for comeback player of the year.
Okay.
That's my prediction. J.J. Watt,
off the couch.
Straight out, off of, is he back on CBS? Straight from CBS.
Probably, right?
They didn't fire him?
CBS
so he's probably back.
/ the gym / the couch.
J.J. Watt off the couch and 10 sacks down the stretch, picking up comeback player of the year.
Okay.
That's my prediction.
All right.
Let's go NFL Coach of the Year. So by the way, we've got our nice, I love the good hard copy.
Yeah.
We have all got my Circa odds here. I got my highlighter. Picking the stuff that I like. So we'll give you some of the odds as of right now on Thursday, August 22nd. NFL Coach of the Year for this year. Who you got?
Now, when you go through these awards, do you sort of try and stay consistent and build one narrative in your brain? Like if the following like this team is going to be good, the quarterback's going to have a great year, the coach is going to like all that, or do you just go, no, I'm just kind of throwing darts here?
No, there's some narrative here.
Okay.
I have a little bit of narrative and a little bit that goes off kilter.
So I think I've done the same, and generally this offseason, I started off kind of pushing back against the Houston Texans hype, but the further we get into the offseason, the closer we get to the season, I've been like, no, you know what, I'm jumping on the bandwagon a bit late, after other people, but I'm starting to believe. Therefore, if the Houston Texans are great, if they do go on the kind of run that people expect, DeMeco Ryans has got to be one of the favorites for a Coach of the Year.
So that's good. He's got the fifth best odds
I'll take
to
that.
win.
Yeah.
The odds for Coach of the Year are fascinating because
who is the favorite?
Favorite's Matt Eberflus.
Really?
Because it's just a. Do we hate this award too? It's just a funny award because it's all expectation based, right? It's like who hasn't been great at their job in the past, who might look good this year.
But how good would the Bears need to be for Matt Eberflus to win Coach of the Year?
Probably first or second in the North. If they were like,
if they jumped the Packers.
Yeah, if they lose to the Lions or the Packers for the division in the last week or something, it's like, all right, these Bears are back.
Yeah.
If you say the Bears are back at the end of the year, Eberflus is the guy.
Okay.
So do you know who, before I give you my pick, who has the longest odds to win Coach of the Year?
Bill Belichick.
Yeah, he's got bad odds since he's not
a coach
coaching.
Anymore, yeah.
But it's close. Andy Reid and John Harbaugh have the worst odds.
Andy Reid
the longest
odds. For Coach of the Year.
Because that's the nature of the award. The Chiefs would have to go 17-0 for Andy Reid to get Coach of the Year. If they go 16-1, it's like, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, of course, they're going 16-1.
Yeah.
We got to give it to the team that just won 10 games that we weren't expecting. Okay. That's how you vote for Coach of the Year.
Which makes it kind of stupid.
Yes, that's another award we don't like.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay.
Zach Taylor is my guy, Coach of the Year. This is a little bit of the narrative. I don't want to give away all my division picks and all my Super Bowl picks or anything like that, but he's right in the middle of the pack as far as odds go. I believe Joe Burrow is going to come back and have a big year. And all of these coaches, they're pretty much tied to quarterbacks. Why is Eberflus the best? Because people are expecting Caleb Williams to be good. I'm expecting Zach Taylor to maybe get his due this year. I've been impressed with Zach Taylor. Again, you're tied with Burrow, but last year without Joe Burrow, they were still winning games. They got the most out of Jake Browning. And I've been impressed with how Zach Taylor has kept them very consistent during the Joe Burrow era when Joe's been healthy. And so I think the Bengals make a run this year, and Zach Taylor gets his props here.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see that. I think Cincinnati are one of those teams that are absolutely primed to go on that run. I mean, last year when Burrow was healthy for the brief window, they were knocking off the best teams in the NFL. They looked like the best team in the NFL, and then he got hurt again, and that was all she wrote.
All right, let's go Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Phenomenally on brand for our picks here.
Yeah. Maybe I'll change. Maybe I'll screw up all of our graphics and change my Offensive Rookie of the Year pick. But Defensive Rookie, go ahead. I know who you're going here.
I mean, we've both gone for Latu, which anybody listening to this show for any period of time will know was absolutely what we were going to do. So, I mean, even just looking down the odds, who else would you even consider?
I have a highlight on Byron Murphy with the Seattle Seahawks. I want to talk about the best odds, though. Lowest odds, Dallas Turner.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised. So the favorites to win Defensive Rookie of the Year, Dallas Turner, then Latu, then Jared Verse.
Yeah.
I am surprised that Turner is ahead of Latu there, and it's not because I don't think it's because of like a path to having more sacks.
No, this is basically just the consensus mock draft board put in odds form.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
Like if you look down the list, that's basically what that looked like, right? It's Turner, Latu, Verse, Terrion Arnold, Byron Murphy. It's literally, if you I transpose that onto the consensus mock draft board, that's probably what it looks like.
For fear of speaking out of turn here, but I was at practice the other day, Bengals and Colts.
Yep.
I didn't tell this particular story yet, but saw Jermaine Burton when practice was over.
Yeah.
Gave him a hug. And,
now, was this the same? You've heard the Trevor Sikkema telling the Michael Wilson story, right?
Oh yeah, Wilson loved him. And, Jermaine did
Bowl,
not know that I'm leading.
Yeah,
he didn't know that I'm leading the hype train.
Okay.
But I'm going to get to the Latu piece of this in a minute. But
He just hugged you because you're a large human being in his general vicinity. Like, how did this
So
happen?
I mean, look, full disclosure here on Check the Mic. I was talking to some of the Colts offensive linemen.
Okay.
He walked by.
Did they know who you were?
No, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter though. Caught eyes with Jermaine.
Yeah.
He was like, this dude's looking at me. He kind of stopped. I went up, did a little sup bro, hugged it out. And this is the one of the more awkward lines I've ever said in my life. I said, "You were my wide receiver 4."
Wow.
Which is a compliment because there was a consensus 3, and I was like, I'm rooting for you, But I said, "You're my wide receiver 4."
That was like your opening salvo to him, huh?
That's what I did.
Yeah. But this is all
and that seemed normal, I guess.
This whole sort of social interaction appears
Stop laughing at me. That's what happened.
This whole thing was built off you just being a large human. Like, this is just what happens to you. People engage you in conversation.
That's correct.
Because you're standing there at almost 7 foot tall.
What's he going to keep walking? He's got to.
He's got to talk to the huge guy.
Has to acknowledge my presence. Right. So I say all that to say, Latu walked by as well.
Right.
And I, was talking to the Colts guys, and I was like, he's good, huh?
Uh-huh.
And they were like, almost too good. It was almost like they were talking about his moveset.
Yeah.
And they're like, his moveset is so advanced.
It's crazy.
It's almost too advanced. I mean, they were basically saying like it's
too good to be true.
He's so many steps ahead of you. Sometimes he outthinks himself, is what they were implying.
Okay.
And they're like, but they were agreeing like he's going to be really good.
Yeah.
It was just interesting to hear a couple of the Colts offensive linemen after I hugged it out with Jermaine when Latu walks by. And they're acknowledging what we saw in film and what we talked about from a scouting report standpoint, like that the dude is advanced and is going to hit the ground running in the NFL. So that's the clear choice here.
I don't think we tap into the sheer doors that your size opens just through its existence enough. Like, we need to just send you around places. Like, we don't need access, right?
Yeah.
We don't need like a credential. We don't need, an official door open to us. We just need you standing there, and people will come to you.
We just try to exploit it while we're in Vegas.
Right.
We'll see what we can do.
Let's go find like the most overpriced, like crazy joint we can find, and then just have you stand there and see what happens.
Make me seem important,
Yeah.
and then they'll treat you as such.
Uh-huh.
The other people that you mentioned, so you mentioned who else is intriguing
Yeah.
as far as defensive rookie of the year odds. Byron Murphy, 5th best odds at plus 1100. Anyone else that stands out to you? But Murphy has a chance. Look, when you're picking these awards, the pass rushers have the easiest chance because it's the easiest stat to, this guy's got 12 sacks or 10 sacks. It's the easiest thing to see from a voting standpoint.
So in that vein, the only other guy I think that I would be kind of curious or interested in is Chop Robinson from Miami at plus 1,500.
If
Chop
Miami's
Robinson,
good and he's just a pass rush specialist,
exactly.
really. Yeah.
Pathway to playing time, incredibly explosive, twitchy athlete, could easily get his way into a bunch of sacks and get notice, and the narrative starts to unfold from there, particularly if Miami's good. That would help as well.
Yeah, that he caught my eye as well. Plus 1,500 for Chop. All right, let's go on offensive rookie of the year. We both have the same choice as well, and it's the favorite by far.
It's Caleb Williams. Again, at the risk of getting too excited, Caleb Williams looks crazy good already. The Bears we expect to be good. It's a great situation to walk into. 3 high-level receivers. I think the offensive line will look a lot better. The offense generally should be really good if he's able to string together a bunch of those special plays, doesn't make a bunch of terrible plays. It kind of feels like he has it wrapped up, almost barring somebody else having a ridiculous season from nowhere.
Caleb's at plus 180 as of record time here on August 22nd. Jaden Daniels, second at plus 600. It's pretty significant, seeing Caleb Williams at the top there. I completely agree. We've hyped him up a ton on this show, on the old show. We've hyped him up plenty. Other names that stood out to me, Jermaine Burton.
Yeah.
It's plus 9,000.
9,000.
Have him highlighted as well. Now that I motivate, because here's the other piece. When I call him wide receiver 4, is that motivation, right?
For him.
Our colleague, Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's got a list of the 15 or 20 receivers who got drafted ahead of him. He's motivated.
Yeah.
Is Jermaine going to start looking up who my top 3 receivers are? And he's going to say, no, I'm better than Marvin Harrison. I'm better than Roma Dunze and Malik Neighbors. That's going to motivate him. I was looking at Trey Benson, plus 7,000 as well. Running back for the Cardinals, maybe?
A couple of the running back ones are interesting. Bucky Irving for the Bucks at plus 15,000.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, I like
Bucky Irving could end
highlight that too.
Right, Bucky Irving could end up being their starting running back sooner rather than later. Ray Davis, he's not going to be the bell cow there, but as very much a 1-2 punch in Buffalo, Ray Davis at plus 35,000, could easily end up he's one injury to. James Cook away from being an absolute bell cow for Buffalo, for one of the more explosive offenses in the NFL, with a mobile quarterback to take some attention away. It does maybe rely on that injury, but it wouldn't take that much for Ray Davis to suddenly put up monster numbers.
No, I like it. It's more of a QB-driven award. We know that historically, but
last one, right at the bottom there. Kimani Vidal for the Los Angeles Chargers. Remember, the Chargers have assembled this.
He might not make the team, Sam.
Well,
I'll debate if he makes the team.
I don't know.
That's why he's plus 60,000.
Right. Well, that and the fact that there's multiple running backs ahead of him, but the multiple running backs ahead of him are all broken down former Ravens backs.
That's why we're talking long shots here.
Yeah.
Pulling out long shots. Some of the guys that have the lowest odds, guys like Ladd McConkey, Keon Coleman, those are opportunity driven, right? McConkey has a path to a lot of targets.
Right.
Keon Coleman has a path, theoretically, to a lot of targets.
So those are clear starters already.
Those are interesting players to keep an eye on here.
Yeah.
Let's go offensive and defensive player of the year. Let's start offensive player of the year for you, Sam.
I'm going to go with Tyreek Hill. I think maybe coulda, shoulda won it a year ago, was injured late in the season, and that kind of derailed his chase for 2,000 receiving yards. Maybe this is getting towards the end of his genuine chances at this, explosiveness, 2,000, all those kinds of things. But Tyreek Hill is still an absolute freak show, and unlike Justin Jefferson, he still has his quarterback.
We did not get too crazy here. Hill's got the lowest. He's got the best odds at plus 700. McCaffrey second at plus 850. I'm going Christian McCaffrey.
Worth disclaiming that we entered these picks before checking the odds.
We did.
So
it was
just turns out we've picked the favorites.
But what we're doing here, just to clarify, we're not picking the best bet right now. We're picking our choice.
Our pick,
right?
and then we're giving you the odds.
And then discussing some of the other intriguing bets here.
Yeah.
From a betting perspective, well, let's just touch on this. McCaffrey's got to stay healthy. It's always a question with the running backs, but as explosive as that Niners offense is going to be, opportunities in the red zone. A lot of times we think about red zone runners being, big battering ram type of running backs. McCaffrey is a great red zone runner, tight area spaces. He's going to be a pass game weapon. One of the best players in the league last year. So if he puts it together again, he's got a chance.
Yep.
I'm looking at Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
At plus 3,000. When we talk about offseason themes and everything, me believing that Saquon Barkley is going to have his best year in Philly with Jalen Hurts next to him, taking some pressure off him from a run game perspective and a good offensive line.
Yeah, I think there's quite a few of them depending on if you buy the narratives, the overarching narratives of various things. Like if Jordan Love picks up the way he left off, Jordan Love at plus 7,500 could easily have an offensive player of the year kind of season. Tua all the way down at 12,500. I mean, Tua could have been offensive player of the year a year ago, but just doesn't have the sort of hype. It's like, Tyreek Hill is the guy that's going to get it there.
It's a game theory type of thing when you're predicting this, right? Because it's not the literal best offensive player. It's like the best statistical season for a guy that's not winning MVP.
Yeah.
Is what it usually is. And Tua seems like a good candidate for that. Put up a ton of stats, but you might at the end of the year say, well, Mahomes is winning MVP or Josh Allen's winning MVP, but Tua had the best statistical season, therefore he could win this award.
Right.
How about Defensive Player of the Year?
Oh man, Defensive Player of the Year is tough. Like there's half a dozen guys that in any given season could be Defensive Player of the Year. Myles Garrett finally got there last year. With this kind of carousel of ridiculous edge rushers, I'm going to say that this is the year Nick Bosa shows up, and he's going to be the guy that has the best season of the group. Yeah,
and my trend, and the guy who's got the favorite, Micah Parsons for me. So I'm going to say, I think you and I, if we were ranking edge rushers right now, would you have Myles Garrett number one?
Yeah, probably. But I think
not by a landslide.
No, and I do think I don't want to say it's interchangeable, but I think it's not a constant, right?
It's close enough that we're not going to sit here.
Well, it's close enough that in any given year it might be any one of five of them,
sure.
Right? Like in all things being equal, or if you ask me like for the upcoming season, which guy would you want, I would probably pick Myles Garrett, but I would say that there's a huge chance that it's going to be somebody else. Like the chance that it will be somebody other than Myles Garrett are significantly greater than the chances it will be Myles Garrett.
Yeah, one of my themes is just believing in Micah Parsons to maybe even take his game to another level this year have it just all show up.
Yeah.
Statistically as well.
I worry a bit about what he's going to be asked to do in Mike Zimmer's defense. Like if his role transitions to more of this like Anthony Barr role where actually he's getting a ton of his snaps as off-the-ball linebacker and he's not just going to play...
He'd better not be.
Because I don't think that helps his case for Defensive Player of the Year. Like if he loses a bunch of pass rushing snaps, which presumably will also lose him a bunch of sacks, even if he gets like the kind of the theoretical boost, or the vibes boost of, well, he's playing off-the-ball linebacker as well, like this is great. I think the net result of that is a negative on his Defensive Player of the Year candidacy.
Micah Parsons last year dropped into coverage 19 times. Just to remind people what his careers looked like, was drafted as a linebacker, pretty much started his career as a linebacker, but had to dabble on the edge because of injuries, and was so good as an edge rusher, they were like, nope, that's what you do. Right. You are a defensive end. But he dropped into coverage 295 times as a rookie. That dropped to 76 times in his second year. And then last year it was like, nope, it's just every now and again, we zone blitz, you're going to drop. That's 19 times. I would not go back. Wouldn't be going backwards if I was the Cowboys. I'd let him get after the QB. He's too good. Pass rush grades of 93, 92, 93.7 per PFF. If he does that again one of these years, he's going to have one of those 20, 22 sack seasons. And I'm banking on that being this year.
It's interesting that Max Crosby has the second best odds of all these insane players. Like
so listen,
TJ Watt, et cetera, all after Crosby.
Defensive Player of the Year awards: Micah Parsons, Max Crosby, Myles Garrett, Nick Bosa, TJ Watt, Aiden Hutchinson, and then Will Anderson at 7 was the other guy that I was going to highlight at plus 2,700. Danielle Hunter there in Houston. We expect the Texans to win a lot of games, rush the passer when you're winning, pick up a bunch of sacks, and you get that year 2 jump for a guy that showed really well as a rookie, but year 2 you take this big jump. A lot of these stars do that, and I think Anderson is primed to take a big jump. I think he's intriguing with the 7th best odds here.
Am I just not seeing his name? Where is Dexter Lawrence on this list?
Down here.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
He's one of the guys I highlighted at plus 15,000.
Which is like
do the vote. So again,
30th or whatever on the list.
We're trying to get into the heads of the voters.
Oh, here. I don't think he has a good chance of winning it. But so he's an interesting one in that, a lot of the times these sort of unique players at weird positions or unusual position deployments takes a while for the sort of the narrative to catch up with how well they're playing. Last year everyone was saying that the votes were done, and the reaction to that was Dexter Lawrence should have been first team All-Pro, right? This is the kind of year where maybe this year he makes first team All-Pro, and then maybe next year, if he's staying at the same kind of level, he's a legitimate defensive player of the year.
Catches up a year later.
Candidate. But the way he's playing at the moment, he's, in terms of playing performance, he's a defensive player of the year.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if voters consider the fact that as a nose tackle, his ability to get pressure, pick up sacks, extremely limited, but he does it at such a higher rate than everyone else. The other part of just defensive player of the year, remember Deron Bland had, was it 5 pick sixes he ended up with last
record.
year? He has all these interceptions, all these pick sixes, did it by like week 12. It was Thanksgiving, everybody's handing him the defensive player of the year award. Well, that's it. Give it to him, 5 pick sixes. But then he also had a bad game in there on the next Thursday against Seattle. And so he's not defensive player of the year. It is so tough for a DB to win this award. But the other guy that I highlighted was Kyle Hamilton at plus 4,200. And he could have that season. It reminds me of Charles Woodson when he won it back in 2010. 09, I think it was.
Yeah,
it was in Revis's big year. And Woodson won it because if you're that hybrid nickel / linebacker / safety, doing it all type of player, and you finish the year with 5-6 sacks, a few interceptions, 100 tackles, Kyle Hamilton has the ability to put together one of those crazy statistical seasons in all those traditional categories to where he could win this award.
Yeah, I think the only issue with that is I think in addition to that type of season, you also need a relatively quiet pass rushing year. And I just don't think like this. The fact that the top 5 guys in this list are those 5 elite edge rushers, and then the next 3, 4, 5 guys. So the first 5, the obvious 5 names, and then the next 5 are all edge rushers as well. I think that's just sort of speaking to the depth at that position right now. So I think the door is just so narrow now for those guys, those DBs, because you need to have that kind of crazy season, and you need nobody to pop off with 22 sacks.
All right, let's get to a non-narrative award.
Okay.
It's the Dwight Stephenson Award.
All right, and what is that, Steve?
Well, why don't you explain it? This was your history from our friends over at PFF.
Yeah.
The Dwight Stephenson Award, we're going to make our picks for that as well.
Well, we'll get to it later, but I hate the MVP award because I feel that football in particular, more than any other sport, gets caught up in defining this value aspect, right? And in particular with football, if you factor in value, it's a quarterback award, which just makes, like, MVP, in most sports, MVP and the best player are the same thing, right? In football, it's very far skewed apart, where all of the most valuable players are quarterbacks, and most of the best players are not. And I feel like that's just a silly diversion for the sake of semantics. So rather than focus on MVP and get caught up in all that, the Dwight Stephenson Award is effectively, think of it as an NFL Heisman, right? The idea is to give it to the best player in the NFL, regardless of what position he plays.
And Dwight Stephenson was a center for the Dolphins,
who was often widely regarded as like the best player in the league at his position, even if his position was center.
So you started this back PFF years ago, right?
I started it, and Neil Hornsby signed off on Stevenson as being the guy to lend his name to it. And by the way, Dwight Stephenson has signed off on that. I mean, he's on board.
Family approved by the Stephenson family. So historically, so again, it's not necessarily a quarterback. Tom Brady has won it before, but this was Aaron Donald a bunch. This was Trent Williams has won it as the highest graded player using PFF grades that particular year. So we're essentially picking who's going to have the best season from a PFF grading perspective. So who's your Stephenson Award selection?
It's a player we already brought up, Dexter Lawrence. Again, I think the hype is a little bit further behind where he is, but what he is doing at nose tackle, where they apparently are going to be keeping him, in the new scheme, is one of one. It may be unprecedented. Who knows? We don't have the data for guys playing in the 1960s or whatever. But Dexter Lawrence does not compare to any other nose tackle that we have seen in the PFF grading era, which is like 2007 onwards. Nobody's done what Dexter Lawrence is doing.
Add Brian Burns out there, Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau. It could be a really fierce defensive line that could help Dexter Lawrence out even more.
Yeah.
My theme that you were asking about before, I'm going Micah Parsons. I picked him for Defensive Player of the Year. I'm going to pick him for the Stephenson again. I just think there's still more in the tank for Parsons. When you're sitting there trying to say, is he as good as Myles Garrett and Nick Bosa and everything? I don't know if he is right now, but he's in year 4, and none of those guys have had the 3-year track record that Micah Parsons has had. I think when you start to add it up after 7 or 8 years, we're going to look back and say, well, Parsons may have been the best out of all of these defensive linemen that are all leading the Defensive Player of the Year odds right now. So I'm banking on Parsons taking a big step forward this year and being the best among all those elite edge rushers.
Buying all the Parsons shares.
All right, last player award, your favorite.
Favorite.
You don't have to rant about it right now. Let's just
love it.
Let's just make our picks.
It's a great
Don't
award.
lose. You have one of the 50. Don't lose your vote.
It's a great award.
MVP.
Nothing I like better.
Who are you going for MVP?
Patrick Mahomes is MVP every year.
It's not true. He wasn't last year.
I mean, he should be.
Shouldn't have been.
Should be. He's always MVP. He's the most valuable player in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, in a vacuum.
Exactly.
So you're going Mahomes.
Yep.
Do you have the best odds by a mile again?
Probably. Where is it?
I was going Josh Allen. This is where I came off the theme a little. I went off my.
Yeah, there you go. Mahomes by almost half the odds to the next guy.
This is the year Josh Allen gets the MVP. That's what I'm saying. The rushing, the passing ability, narrative-wise, it's going to feel like he's going to put up big-time numbers again. And narrative-wise, it's going to feel like, well, they removed his number one, right? The same way Mahomes did a couple years ago. You took Stephon Diggs out, you replaced him with a rookie, and we're still going to, have an elite offense. So I'm going to go Allen.
So does he need to effectively maintain his production and win rate with this new wide receiver group, or can he actually take a step back and get credit for still being somewhere near what he used to be with, Keon Coleman as his number one receiver?
I think, if at the end of the year he's got another, 35 touchdowns and 10 on the ground, and you're like, well, he's got all the production, and he did it after losing his number one. And he was getting MVP hype down the stretch last year when the Bills were making that run. They needed to basically win out to get to the playoffs, and they were doing that. So I'm going to say this is Allen's year to win MVP.
Not at all dumping on it, but you can see just from looking at the odds, it's a real vibes award, the MVP. Mahomes number one by a mile, okay? Then the next two are real, optimistic vibes picks of Jordan Love and C.J. Stroud. Then you've got Josh Allen and Joe Burrow, Hurts, Brock Purdy, Lamar, Aaron Rodgers. It's all about the vibes.
Who are some good? So the first non-QB on the list is Christian McCaffrey.
Right.
At plus 7,000.
Who is probably basically the only non-quarterback that even could win MVP.
Yeah, the receivers that could have to have, because if Tyreek Hill dropped off at the end of last year, it's so tough to stay healthy and put up those monster seasons. You have to have like a Cooper Kupp season from a couple years ago, or the pace that Tyreek Hill was on last year.
I don't think a wide receiver has ever won it, right? Like a kicker has won MVP and a wide receiver hasn't.
Well deserved by the kicker. Well, yeah, some of the voters were not sharp back in the day, picking kickers.
You don't know. The kicker might have been.
Didn't you look that up? Like you missed 5 kicks too that year or something ridiculous?
Whatever. It was in the strike-shortened year. Anyway.
You had to be there.
Yeah.
You had to be there.
But genuinely, McCaffrey is probably the only non-quarterback that you could even construct a theoretical case would win MVP.
Well, it's funny too because nothing against Lamar Jackson, but Lamar last year probably one of the worst statistical seasons for an MVP, and it really became a narrative type thing because down the stretch they wrecked all the good teams, including the 49ers, and one of the other MVP candidates in Brock Purdy. And after that, it was like, well, this is Lamar's award. And nobody was really watching Lamar all year being like, oh, yeah, he's definitely the MVP. But there was also no one else who clearly was.
No, last
Dak
year
had the best statistical season, but he couldn't beat any good teams.
Right.
Allen was like too little, too late. They also won a game when Allen threw like 80 passing yards or whatever because they just ran all over the Cowboys. So there was no just clear MVP last year.
Yeah, last year was like this weird game of hot potato between every MVP candidate. Like you would have a guy, and then he would have a bad game, and it's like, all right, now the next guy is on. He's the presumptive MVP, and then he'd have a bad game, and it eventually settled on Lamar, and it locked down there. But even like it took last year with no clear MVP, and every time you settle on one, that guy essentially having a disqualifying performance, and even then it was like.
That's what I hate the most. It drives me crazy, Sam.
But even then it was sort of like, it's still a quarterback. We're probably not getting to Christian McCaffrey. So I just can't even paint a picture where anybody other than that wins one.
So here's what could happen. You have a similar year to last year where there's no real quarterback who separates themselves, and like Justin Jefferson at plus 17,500 with Sam Darnold. Right, if Justin,
but he would need to like break 2,000 yards with Darnold as his quarterback.
Correct, and look, a less than good quarterback doesn't necessarily keep you from getting all the yards, right? Because you can throw a lot of picks and you're playing from behind a lot, and you just throw a lot, and you can get your 2,000 yards, but you still probably have to win games to be MVP. So Darnold has to play well enough, but I'm just saying that's one of those scenarios where it could work. Or the Saquon Barkley thing again, where he just has like 25 rushing touchdowns because of the situation with Philadelphia.
Yeah, I mean, even that, I struggle to see he would win it over, a quarterback.
All right, you ready for our, we're going to go division winners.
Okay.
And then we'll pick AFC and NFC champions and Super Bowl picks, and then we'll finish it off with some fun prop bets at the end.
We're just kind of rattling through the divisions, right? Because
division
previews are on their way up.
So here are your programming notes. As of tonight, the NFC East, it was released. It's already been released. You got to go back, check it out. NFC East, we went about an hour plus per division. NFC East is out. We go team by team, made our picks. NFC North came out today. Was that what we did? NFC North. The rest of the divisions are coming out every single day over the next 6 days.
Okay.
All right, so if you haven't subscribed yet, you got to subscribe either on YouTube or wherever you're listening to this podcast. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Everything will come through. So all the divisions will come out. So we're gonna give away a little bit here tonight on the divisions that haven't been released. So let's go division by division with your pick, our picks here, starting in the AFC East. Who you got winning the division?
AFC East, I have the New York Jets winning the division.
This is your theme here.
Yeah, the Jets. So I'm buying into the Texans. Preview of what's to come. I'm buying into the Jets as well. I think, rewind a year, everyone was super excited about Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. They're Super Bowl contenders, and then Rodgers' Achilles gives out after 4 snaps. And it's like, well, that was a bust. Yeah, I mean, it was last year, but it might just be now. So I'm in. The Jets are winning.
I'm going to take the Bills. I'm taking the Bills as still the top dog in the AFC East.
Okay.
It is a bit of an uncomfortable offseason for them because they've lost a lot of bigger name starters, but I do think that they have the replacements there. The receiver situation will be a key, but if I'm picking Allen for MVP, got to connect it with them also winning the division.
Right.
AFC North, Sam. Who you got?
I am going with the Bengals. This is one.
Same.
This is tough. At least 3 teams, I think, have a real shot at this division. I'm ultimately going to go with the Bengals as the best chance of the 3.
The Ravens are the slight favorite to win the division, plus 145 versus the Bengals at 160. I'm rolling with if Zach Taylor's my
right. Got to be consistent.
Got to be consistent, right? We don't have people calling us on this.
No.
We put a lot of thought and effort into this.
Mm-hmm.
If Zach Taylor's going to be my coach of the year, the Bengals are going to win the division and maybe do even more damage when we start making other picks here, Sam.
Ooh.
Maybe we'll see.
Okay.
AFC South.
Already said it. Houston Texans buying into that hype train. A little late, but I'm there. Choo-choo.
Circa's odds here. I'm also taking the Texans. Circa has the Texans minus 115, Jags at plus 265.
Wow.
Pretty significant difference. Yeah. And the Colts at plus 340, Titans down at plus 975. So pretty heavy favorites for the Texans. So we're both taking the favorite there in the South. And in the West, heavy favorites, the Kansas City Chiefs.
Is this the easiest division in the NFL to pick?
Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah.
Chiefs minus 300. The next best odds are the Chargers at plus 400.
Yep.
So yeah, we're both taking the Chiefs in the AFC West. How about the NFC East? This is not as cut and dry here.
No, I think it's still a coin flip to me between the Eagles and the Cowboys. I'm going to go with Dallas. It wouldn't sort of shock me, though, if the other two teams made it closer than people are expecting.
I would feel, so I'm taking the Eagles.
Okay.
They're the favorite at minus 135.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that they're favored by that much over the Cowboys at plus 180. Remember, the Eagles, they looked like the best team in the NFL through 11, 12 weeks last year, and then it just
fell apart.
The worst falling apart I think I've ever seen in NFL history. They look
Crazy
like
collapse.
A completely different team. We're kind of I'm banking on them bouncing back. I think you are too.
Yep.
The intrigue here for me is Washington, because if Jaden Daniels is really good, plus 1,200 to win the division, look, you got to leapfrog the Cowboys and the Eagles, but if Jaden Daniels is legit, they have the easier schedule than the two better teams, right? And so maybe the Commanders are the sneaky team as far as like a long shot bet would be here.
Yeah, like finding a quarterback that is the guy with a situation around him that's at least okay, right? Well, TBD on how good it is, but is at least fine. I mean, it's difficult to overstate how big of an impact that can make. It's very difficult to be bad in that scenario, and it can take you a long way. So it's still a stretch to say they could win the division, but it wouldn't shock me if they made it a lot closer than people are expecting.
Think like RG3's rookie season with Washington, where they surprised a lot of teams. So NFC North, we already released it this morning. Who you got?
The Detroit Lions. I think, they are, last year wasn't a fluke. They are primed to be one of the best teams in the NFL, let alone the division, the conference. So, Detroit.
I'm also taking Detroit. I think it's as good of a division. See what happens with Minnesota and Chicago. Like, we're projecting them to both be pretty good, I think. Maybe up there with the AFC North as the best division in football. I'll also take the Lions, though, even though I wouldn't be surprised if the Packers won. Wouldn't be surprised if the Bears make one of those runs, but depending on how Caleb Williams hits the ground running.
I mean, I'd be reasonably surprised if anybody other than Detroit took this division.
Detroit look, they were plays away from the Super Bowl last year.
Right.
I think they got better
this
offseason, so taking the Lions. NFC South.
How hard could it be? No, that's the AFC South.
That's the AFC South. It's much more difficult now. We probably should apply how hard could it be to the NFC South now.
Yeah. The moniker has changed conferences.
The Bucs have won this division back-to-back years, by the way.
Yeah. Unexpectedly.
Yes.
I will go with Atlanta. I mean, I've said all the way along, I think the second you put Kirk Cousins on that roster, they became the best team, the favorite for this division.
Yeah, I mean, if Desmond Ridder wasn't throwing red zone interceptions, fumbling at the goal line last year, they go from 7-10 to 10-7. I mean, it's that simple. Kirk Cousins comes in. Our friend Zach's there. Of course, we're picking our friends to win the division. Like, what else would we do here? They're also the favorite. We're not just making this up. Circa's got the minus 145.
And it's getting bigger because they've been reinforcing. They make moves like Matthew Judon. They bring in Justin Simmons. Like, those are significant upgrades at key areas for them to move that in their direction even more.
NFC West?
49ers, I think another. I mean, this is one. I think this is maybe, is it closer than the North? I think this one would shock me less if somebody other than the 49ers won it.
But this is the widest odds other than the Chiefs and the AFC West.
Yeah.
I'm also taking the Niners, of course, minus 220. Rams are plus 375. Again, if you're trying to win money, the Rams at plus 375 or the Seahawks at plus 785.
That's, to me, it would not shock me in the slightest if Seattle ended up winning this division.
As far as like a value play goes, Seattle's intriguing, especially as when we pre-taped our NFC West show. I feel like the more we talked about Seattle, it's like, talking myself into the Seahawks this year.
I mean, if you look at that roster top to bottom, you look at their depth chart, that is a good team.
It is. And then Mike McDonald factor, it's tough to predict, but could completely turn that defense around, have those pieces. It's a good offense if they all stay healthy.
Yep.
Keep an eye on the Seahawks. All right, man. AFC and NFC championship. Let's start with who's gonna win the NFC.
So I'm buying into that Detroit, not even hype. I just think that the Lions are for real. Like, they were for real last year. They came a couple of plays away from knocking off San Francisco. And as you said, they got better in the offseason. Guys like DJ Reader, those are significant pieces to come in. I think the Lions win the NFC.
It's so difficult when you come so close, and Dan Campbell saying, we don't know if we're going to be back here again.
We may never get there again.
And it's like a really honest take on where they are. But again, all those things that you mentioned, did they shore up the pass rush? They had a massive need at corner that I think they filled. They got the offense locked up, and offensive line even potentially looking better from the best offensive line last year. So the Lions are a great pick there. I'll take the Eagles again, though.
Wow.
Coming back. I got the Eagles, plus 650.
All right.
Now, this could go sour if all of their collapse last year was really just because it's Nick Sirianni.
Right.
If it's really just Sirianni, it's not the coordinators, it's the head coach. And, it carries over into this year, and maybe he's even gone after a few games or whatever it might be. But I think, Dom, they got, an off season with Dom getting the squad back together and everything. The Eagles are going to be feeling much better. They're going to look like the 2022 Eagles, back to the Super Bowl. Who you got winning the AFC?
I'm going to start with the Chiefs until given reason otherwise every year.
You don't want to get
every
creative?
Year. No, every year, Chiefs.
I mean, I think I had 10 straight years of Packers-Patriots Super Bowl picks. That didn't work.
Yeah.
You're just going to go with the Chiefs every year?
I mean, they've literally been in the AFC title game every single season Mahomes has been the starter. Right. Going with anybody other than the Chiefs in the AFC is outright silliness.
And the team that beat them in the AFC Championship was the Cincinnati Bengals. And I'm taking the Bengals to win the AFC this year. So Zach Taylor is going to win Coach of the Year, and they're going to win the North. Bengals back to the Super Bowl just because I'm trying to mix it up a little bit. So you have a Lions-Chiefs Super Bowl. I have an Eagles-Bengals Super Bowl.
Just looking at it now, the Chiefs do not have the lowest odds for winning the conference. The 49ers do in the NFC, but they are the best in the AFC. So as my point is essentially true that picking anybody other than Kansas City is not smart.
All right, man. So who's winning your Lions-Chiefs Super Bowl?
Dan Campbell, at the end of this year, will have successfully restored the roar.
Wow.
The Detroit Lions. Barry Sanders will be there with the ticker tape raining down, with Dan Campbell jonesed out of his mind on caffeine. Just beautiful scenes.
That will be one of the best Super Bowl parades.
Yes.
The celebration in Detroit. The celebration in Detroit when they hosted
Murphy.
a playoff game, and then when they won a playoff game last year was out of this world.
You're going to have Eddie Murphy driving a bus.
Eminem's going to have so many new albums just off of this.
It's going to be beautiful.
Right? So Lions win the Super Bowl. I'm going to the Super Bowl parade, though, in my scenario.
Oh, yeah?
Because it's in Cincinnati.
Wow.
It's in our hometown. Bengals over the Eagles. Joe Burrow comes good. They were just a few plays away just a couple years ago. Burrow's going to stay healthy this year, remind people just how good he is when he's healthy. All the pieces on the outside at receiver, the offensive line's improved, the defense looks improved. I got Bengals over Eagles.
You're just leaning right into these accusations of bias, huh?
Certainly am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I merely live in Cincinnati,
right.
but I'm not biased towards the Bengals.
No.
But we'll go to the parade.
Okay,
cool.
Because
it's 10 minutes from my house.
Can we get into the parade? Could we be we could be on a bus somewhere?
I bet we could. I mean, if you get Bengals social media team going back, it's Steve picked it. Steve picked it back in August. You have to get.
That's got to get us a spot on the bus, right?
Yeah, we'll talk to our friends. I mean, they still haven't gotten back to me about the credentials to get into the
camp that you went to a few days ago. Yeah.
We could cut that part out. Did they approve my credentials? No. Did they still give me a wristband? Yes.
Yeah.
So
well, maybe that's the way we do it. We just show up and ask to
that's
be
what
on
I'm
the
saying.
bus.
I have the wristband from camp. I'll just bring that. This is my orange wristband.
I'm supposed to be up here now.
Get me on one of the floats.
I'm supposed to be upstairs in this bus right now.
We're going to the parade. So I got the Bengals winning the Super Bowl.
Okay.
All right, man. So we're at Circa.
Yep.
Don't forget, Circa $1,000,006 classic picks contest. You pick 5 games against the spread every single week. The top 100 in the season, they pay out, and there are quarterly season prizes as well. It's $1,000 to enter, 5 entries per person max, 126 ways to win, $1 million first place prize, over $6 million, guaranteed in total prizes. So it's 6 NFL picks against the spread every single week. 126 ways to win this thing. So that's what we're here. We appreciate Circa for their hospitality, setting us all up over here and being a part of this. And we want all of our viewers and listeners to know all about it. Circa $1,000,006. You better get in before the season starts. And while we're here, we're going to have some fun. Okay, so we got our the hard copy, Sam.
The betting sheet.
We got it right here, and we were looking through. I highlighted a whole bunch of stuff, and so we're each going to pick, a couple. Like, what caught your eye?
Yeah.
And from a prop bet standpoint, we're going to take a look at those, and then what we want to do is build a parlay off that, based off of what you're looking at, what I'm looking at. We're going to go build a parlay and go down and place a little bet down.
Right. They have an incredible, this whole booklet of stuff that they have odds for. This particular sheet, I think, is our winner, right? Very high level, very easy, very simple. We're going to go with the players that are going to have the most passing yards, rushing yards, receiving yards, and interceptions thrown this season. We'll talk about those a little bit. And then, we are going to build what we think based off our narratives and our expert analysis.
Expert analysis.
Not quite award-winning, award-nominated expert analysis.
The other podcast was nominated.
It was us.
It was
our
us.
show.
It was.
Anyway,
we have been nominated for awards.
We are award-nominated expert analysis. We're going to create that and create a parlay and a bet, and then we're going to walk down into this awesome sports book here and put money on it. And when we win the millions that we will generate off this, it's great for everybody.
Yeah. I suggested, can't promise, if we win millions, we'll go ad-free. I have not run that by
I think that's fair.
The powers that be over here.
Yeah.
But if we win millions, we'll go ad-free for a year.
I think that's
We'll
entirely reasonable.
We'll see what happens. All right. So prop bets that caught your eye.
Yep.
We'll go back and forth. Give me one that caught your eye here.
Okay, the passing yards one. I think Josh Allen to have the most passing yards at plus 3,500, which is how many people are in one of those columns? 10? Like, that's 10th best odds or whatever. That's pretty good, right?
I'm surprised by that. That's like really just on the back of Stephon Diggs being out, some questions as far as his playmakers go, maybe too much reliance on Keon Coleman, and that puts him all the way to 12th.
12th. So, like Josh Allen is, odds-wise, has significantly longer odds to lead the NFL in passing yards than Caleb Williams or Brock Purdy, right? I just think the sort of previous history of Josh Allen in the NFL suggests that's kind of crazy, even with, Keon Coleman as theoretically his best receiver.
And so, and a big part of this is volume,
Yeah.
right? And having the opportunity to throw. So the guy that's just ahead of him, plus 2,500, is Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
He was the guy who caught my eye as well. And I have a theme here as we run down some of these props. I think the Falcons are going to throw the ball quite a bit. I think they're going to put up points. I think Bijan Robinson in the running game is going to do well as well, but I think Cousins with those playmakers has a chance to put up a lot of yards. So 11th lowest odds, not bad, plus 2,500.
Agreed. I think he's got a good shot there.
Give me one for rushing yards.
Rushing yards.
Or multiple.
So, I've got a few here. Derrick Henry at plus 1,500, which again is like, 8th, 10th, somewhere on this list. That feels like really good value. We've talked before.
He's 8th,
The excitement of the Madden sim, right? What happens if you put Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson in the same backfield? Like, the ingredients, I think, are there for that to result in special production from somebody, right? And it wouldn't shock me if it's Derrick Henry. So Derrick Henry at that level, I think, is a great bet.
That's the one that I have Derrick Henry as well. I am shocked that he is 8th.
Yeah,
at plus
agreed.
1,500.
I think that's nuts.
Just because of the historic success of the Ravens run game and him being plopped in
and
there.
And the fact that he is still Derrick Henry,
Yeah.
Let me give you two more I think that are interesting. James Conner in Arizona was quietly really good last year. And if that offense as a whole is much better this year with Marvin Harrison in there, with Kyler Murray healthy for a full season, James Conner at plus 6,400, which is, again, in the second column of this, and if there's, 20 guys in that, that's pretty deep in this list. And James Conner is one of the few guys out there as well that has a genuine bell cow type of role, which is a big part of this. And then the last one.
You got a serious long shot here.
Serious long shot. What if Nick Chubb is just that dude? Nick Chubb at plus 8,000, right? Again, if he comes back healthy, Nick Chubb has had a bell cow role in the past. What if he's just one of those genetic freak shows that doesn't need a knee, right? Oh, it got ripped
I think
to pieces.
he will. It's just a matter of if he plays enough early in the season.
I think if he looks like himself, he'll play enough. So it's more like, what if he's just able to shake that off? Like it's not a big thing.
It's a long shot, but I'm expecting Chubb to be healthy because he's awesome.
Like,
he's bounced back from these things before.
Yeah, it's certainly a long shot, and I wouldn't say he's got, amongst the sort of best 2 or 3 chances of leading the league in rushing. But like, how many guys would you say have a better shot than Nick Chubb of leading the league in rushing yards? It's not that many.
How about receiving yards? Who do you have?
I'm buying it in my narrative consistency thing. Garrett Wilson, we've been salivating over Rodgers to Wilson since the idea of it first got broached. I still think it has the capacity to absolutely cook.
Same thing. Narrative. Theme.
Yep.
Drake London.
Drake London.
I've been talking Drake London up this entire offseason. He's about 10th, plus 2,800.
Yep.
I think he's going to get high volume targets from Kirk Cousins. He's never had an accurate quarterback. He's still produced at a similar level as the guy that you just mentioned, Garrett Wilson. They were drafted right next to each other a couple of years ago. I think Drake London's going to have a monster year. The other guy that caught my eye was Cooper Kupp, way down the list at plus 5,500.
People are like out on him already. It's like Cooper Kupp's done.
It's back-to-back years of injuries, right? Back-to-back years of injuries
and
for Kupp.
Age,
and age. He's a little bit older. But man, like we're just 3 years removed from one of the best wide receiver seasons of all time. Matthew Stafford is still there, and I know Puka Nacua is going to steal, some of that volume. But man, Cooper Kupp, just from an odds perspective at plus 5,500, absolutely caught my eye.
Agree. I like that. That was what I was looking for. When I discovered you'd already had it, I would throw Nico Collins in there as well as a shout. Again, buying into this narrative. What happens if C.J. Stroud is that good? If that offense is that good again? I know Stephon Diggs is there now, but like Nico Collins would be the volume guy in that offense.
And then we have most interceptions thrown.
Yeah.
Who are you looking at for that?
I immediately scanned the list to find where Daniel Jones was. Put all of my money on Daniel Jones to lead the league in interceptions.
We don't need Giants fans tuning out.
You think we even move the needle in the Daniel Jones hate narrative that's currently swirling around New York?
It's optimism season, man. It's like we're still, Giants fans are like, well, the line's a little better, and Malik Neighbors is there.
Did you see the mashup video, social media clip that was there between Daniel Jones and Malik Neighbors reacting to the Jets scrimmage, the joint practice you were talking about earlier?
I did not.
So. Because Sauce Gardner was like waving them, he was like chirping at them during this thing. So they interviewed Daniel Jones, like, so how do you think he went? He's like, oh, we mostly executed well. A couple of plays we could have been better here or there. Cuts to Malik Neighbors, like, we just beat ourselves start to finish. Like, this was terrible. There's lots of, it's all us. We were bad. Quarterbacks out there going, yeah, I was pretty good. I think I had a solid day. And Malik Neighbors like, this is garbage. I don't know what to do anymore.
Daniel's just, when you're the leader of the team,
Gotta have an optimistic
You gotta polish
outlook.
it up a little bit.
Yeah.
You gotta polish it up.
I'm just saying, that's where my money's going for most interceptions.
Oh man. I met one of our dedicated listeners.
Yeah?
Was it Sean? I texted you his name. I think it was Sean. He was a bartending party that we were at in Nashville a couple weeks ago. I just wanted to give him a shout out. He said, of course I'm going to join you at Check the Mic.
Excellent.
Diehard Giants fans. He loves our honest Giants analysis. So he won't leave.
Well, there you go. See?
He won't leave. He'll appreciate the honest analysis on Daniel Jones. I went and looked at last year's turnover-worthy play list.
Yep.
So I looked at the PFF turnover-worthy play numbers and saw, now Trevor Lawrence was up there.
Yep.
I think the injuries were a big factor
we don't
there.
anticipate that repeating necessarily.
But the guy that stood out to me, fourth most turnover-worthy plays last year was Baker Mayfield. Now, a lot of those were fumbles.
Right.
But, again, just from a betting perspective, or, if you're trying to predict this, sixth lowest odds, Baker Mayfield, plus 1,400 to throw the most interceptions. And, look, he's let me down a lot. He's let me down a lot
and
since we went to bat for him.
Yeah, this would be exactly the time where
every time he's turned a corner,
pulls the rug out.
You already gave up on him.
I know. Yeah,
you're not even allowed. You can't even say positive things about Baker Mayfield
not anymore. No.
But this, could throw a lot of interceptions this year.
Oh, easily. Yeah. Baker, I mean,
new offensive coordinator.
Almost regardless of what he does, Baker Mayfield always has a league-leading interception season within him, just capacity-wise.
So the lowest, just to read out the lowest odds for interceptions thrown here at Circa, Sam Darnold plus 900, and then it's Josh Allen, Trevor Lawrence. See, I think the Trevor thing's a little fake.
Yeah, agreed.
But I mean, he'll throw some picks.
He'd always be high.
He'll throw some picks. Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, then Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
And then Will Levis and Matthew Stafford.
So the two more that I would throw out there as names, I immediately went to rookies that could struggle this year. So Bo Nix at plus 2,600, I think is pretty solid odds for most interceptions. Now, fighting against that, you've got how much room would Sean Payton give him to throw that many interceptions?
Right. And the fact that his game at Oregon was very risk averse.
Right. But he's, I think, a type of quarterback that could easily struggle in that sort of way at the NFL level. And then Drake May, if he gets the starting gig with that situation, Drake May could throw a ton of picks in a fairly quick period of time. Again, how much room would he have before Jacoby Brissett got put back out there? But I think that's a good bet. The one actually that when you were just reading through the names, I hadn't really considered that is a good call, I think. Will Levis could
at plus
throw
1,400.
Yeah. Will Levis at plus 1,400 could throw a ton of picks.
The thing that would hurt Levis is the fact that he still plays quarterback like a fullback.
Yes.
And might not stay healthy if he keeps trying to run over linebackers.
Agreed.
All right. So let's take those. So those are ones that all caught our eye.
Yep.
Let's take one from each.
Yep.
And roll it up as a check the mic.
Now, are we going for what is our? Are we is this most money, best odds, or just some combination?
Best. Intuition here is what we're looking for. So we both agreed on Derrick Henry. We both had him on our list.
Okay, so he's got to be in there.
Definitely
give me the highlight. I'll do it on this one as the official copy.
So definitely Derrick Henry.
Yep. So he's going to lead the league in rushing.
Do you want to back to passing yards? I didn't feel great about the Cousins one. Who did you take again?
Josh Allen was mine, but I had identified Cousins as a potential guy that I wanted to talk about. Matthew Stafford is a name that I don't think say, but was one that I was going to throw out there.
I'm down for any of those. Stafford's got way lower odds than those guys.
You want to go with Cousins just because we both ID'd him?
Yeah, let's do Cousins.
All right.
So we got Cousins and Henry.
Yep. Receiving yards.
You had a few for receiving. You had Garrett Wilson at plus 2,000, which I'm in on him having a big year as well.
I don't love. This is the first one of yours that I don't love. I don't love Drake London leading the league in receiving.
No, I'm not. I wouldn't push this.
Even with Cousins leading the league in passing yards.
The Cooper Kupp one is interesting.
Cooper Kupp one's crazy value, but
yeah,
I don't.
Do you want to do Garrett Wilson then?
Wilson,
because I think he's going to have a huge year.
Let's do Wilson. And that's not bad. He's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th in this list, so that's pretty good odds.
And then interceptions, you may have talked me into Will Levis.
It's not. Oh, if it's Will Levis?
Plus 1,400.
I do like Levis, but
Levis, Baker.
I can't see anybody beyond Daniel Jones.
Yours were long shots.
Yeah.
You're just gonna Daniel Jones. They will not throw the ball enough. They won't throw the ball.
How many
enough.
opportunities? He tried to throw 3 picks in one preseason half.
How
many opportunities do you think he needs to lead the league in interceptions?
Just working on some stuff. You know not to. We know what Daniel Jones is at this point, and you're going to take one half of preseason action and project that forward.
He's also pretty interception happy, period. I mean, it's not
how many
turnover?
He's never thrown more than 12. That was years ago. I can't let you do this.
Will Levis then.
Will Levis has to be the guy here.
Or do we double down on Baker screwing us this year?
Maybe throw him in too. No, you can't do.
You can't do. No. Okay, so that's our parlay. Kirk Cousins to lead the league in passing yards. Derrick Henry to lead the league in rushing yards.
Yes.
Garrett Wilson to lead the league in receiving yards. And Will Levis to lead the league in interceptions. That's plus 2,500, plus 1,400, plus 2,000, and plus 1,400. We'll figure out what that rolls up into in a minute.
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to hopefully get our social team to help us out here. And we're going to go down, place the bet.
Yep.
Maybe throw it on the Instagram or something like that. We're going to create content off of it. All right. So you got to follow us on Instagram. You got to subscribe on YouTube, and you have to subscribe where you listen to the podcast, and you'll find out. One of our next shows, we'll give you what the actual odds are, but you'll see it on social.
Yeah, we'll find out what the odds are, and therefore what amount of money we're going to win.
Perfect. And that's what we'll be rooting for this season. Is that it for us today, man?
I believe so.
That's it.
I think
that was
we're
fun.
done.
Our first in-person show for Check the Mic.
It sort of feels like the first real show, right?
We flew all the way out to Vegas to do this.
It sort of feels like the first real show.
It does.
We've been doing these ones from our home setups, improved as they may be, but still, it's not quite the same thing, remotely from home. This is our first in-person show at Circa, and it's been nice. I like it.
And we appreciate all the people at Circa for putting us up. Once again, don't forget, Circa $1,600,000, $6 million guaranteed in total prizes, 126 different ways to win, $1,000 to enter. You're going to pick 5 games against the spread every single week. All sorts of ways to win. Circa $1,600,000. All right, guys, that'll do it for us today. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. We'll see you again soon with more Check the Mic.